Hello, everybody. Welcome to my show. Um, those of you who know me don't need any introduction. I know there are some people who don't know me. My name is Joseph Mbele. I'm a Tanzanian. I teach at St. Olaf College in Northfield, Minnesota. I've been here since 1991 in the English department. I also have a YouTube channel. It's a side activity. I like to record things and talk about different topics, culture, education, globalization, writing, things like that. Sometimes I have a visitor on the show, and today I do have a visitor, a very special person whom I've known for some years here in Minnesota. Yeah, we have met at cultural events, book events. She follows my activities online, my social media. I consider her one of my most faithful followers. Yeah. Her name is Rita, and I'll give her some minutes to introduce herself. So, tell us about yourself, just a little bit of your background. People would like to know you, just a little bit.
Okay.
And welcome
Just
to the show.
thank
Yeah.
you. I'm so glad to be here. We've talked about this for probably years now
Yeah.
to do this, and we're finally getting to do it. So I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
Um, my name is Rita Jackson Apollo. I'm originally from Liberia, West Africa, and live in Minnesota. Lived here since 93 or so. So it's been a long time now. Um, and one interesting thing about me too, my last name Apollo, which is my marriage name, is from I'm married to a Togolese, also from West Africa. So we have the different cultures there. Um, and I've since I've been in the United States, I've worked in mostly the nonprofit sector, and now I'm currently working in the public sector for the state of Minnesota. So um, I author a book. First, I some many years ago, I started a group of women to network African women from different parts of Africa. We got together in Minnesota and built friendships. And it went on for a few years. And after that, when it became inactive, I wrote a book about it because I found myself talking about that experience a lot to other people. And so I really wanted to put that in writing and make it part of the history of our experience here in Minnesota.
Great. Wow.
Mhm.
Actually, that is the main reason I invited you to my show. Because as you know, I have been a fan of your work, and I'm glad you already mentioned it. That's really uh, the reason I invited you.
Mhm.
Following your work here in Minnesota, in those days, you started the women's organization. You were constantly, in the media. I
Mhm.
followed your meetings and activities. And when it ended, I do feel like there's something missing from my life. It was just part of my life.
Yeah.
After a week, I would say, okay, Rita and her group are somewhere in a restaurant. Rita and her group are somewhere. And it was just something that I'd come to embrace as part of my life here.
Mhm. Mhm.
I wanted to come, to you and, just talk a little bit about it. By the way, I need to show the audience the book. I have the book. I carry it with me, and I really enjoy reading it. It's called
Hmm.
African Women Connect. There is a
Hmm.
subtitle,
Yes.
a long subtitle. So we'll talk about that.
Hmm.
So tell us a little bit how you decided to form this group, African Women Connect, here in Minnesota. What drove you to do that? I think that's really part of what I'm
Hmm.
interested in having the people know.
Yeah. So when I moved to Minnesota, one of the things to the United States, one of the things I got really excited about was the opportunity to meet people from different parts of Africa. Because when I was in Africa, I did not get a chance to travel. So I started meeting a lot of people from many different parts of the world and was very curious and made some friends. But then I also noticed that we didn't really, those relationships were mostly limited to where we work. So when if I work with them or went to church with them or that's where it was limited. But every time we got together, we had so much to share with each other. And I always thought it would be nice if we had like a group of women, like a group who could come together and share experiences, learn from each other. Um, and also we were in these our communities were not really united. We were very separate, Liberians and Sierra Leoneans and like Nigerians. And so I always yearned for something that would bring us all together so that we can fellowship and build relationships and that sort of thing. So there was nothing like that. There were separate organizations within each of the communities, but nothing that brought us together as people from different countries and cultures. And so after wishing and hoping something like that would happen,
Yeah,
I realized if it were to happen, it would have to be me. So that's when I decided
yeah,
I would try.
yeah.
Hmm.
And as I say, I was following, the whole thing, and I have great memories. And I just wanted that story to be
Hmm.
told, at least for my sake, for the sake
Hmm.
of my YouTube channel, so people can.
Hmm.
I think it was a compelling story, and I don't
Hmm.
want it to just be lost like that.
Hmm.
So, what you have just said is actually one of the things that struck me about you.
Hmm.
You are what I would call a Pan-Africanist.
Hmm.
And reading your book, that comes out very clearly. You were so keen and so persistent and so committed to uniting the women from across Africa. And
Hmm.
you were trying to go against this trend of, separatism, people belonging
Hmm.
to their little group from their country, from their
Hmm.
ethnic group. And I'm sure it was quite a challenge to get people to think like you, because many of our people are actually very parochial.
Yes. I get this question all the time. And one of my really good friends said something to me when the book first came out that was, surprising to me. But at the same time, after I thought about it for a little bit more, I figure, oh, okay, I think she's onto something here. So what she said was, I can't think of anyone else who could do this, bringing women together like you would.
Uh-huh.
And so I thought to myself, what is so special about me? Because this is something my husband, he grew up in a very traditional family,
Yeah.
all the African things, the separation, ethnic, and, all kinds of things that separates people or make them compete against one another. He was like, that is not going to happen. You just can't bring African women together because it's not that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't see why it should be so difficult. So I'll tell you something which I think helps me to do this.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, I grew up in a mining community.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was born and raised in that community. Both of my parents worked for the Lamco Mines, which is was a joint venture with America and some European countries. It changed over the years several times, but in that little community, we had people from all over the world that
Yeah.
lived in our community. And
Yeah.
so when I was growing up, my upbringing was more about this outlook on the world and exposed to a lot of different cultures.
Yeah.
And it was not, I didn't grow in a community that sort of separated, that group of people does not mix with this group. So
Yeah.
just I think my worldview,
Uh-huh.
um, from that experience was that all these people,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter where we come from or what families we belong to, we can
Yeah.
make something happen, something
Yeah.
beautiful happen. So
Yeah.
I didn't think of that for a very long time until after I wrote the book and started, having conversations about this. But I think that was very key
Uh-huh.
in my success to do this or
Uh-huh.
my drive
Yes.
to make
Yes.
it work.
Yes.
Yes.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense because
Mm-hmm.
as somebody who was just reading this book and not knowing your background, that
Mm-hmm.
struck me. This is a Pan-Africanist writing. This is a Pan-Africanist at work. And so I
Mm-hmm.
was curious, how that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have actually, I know you had told me, I don't know in what context, that you grew up in a town, in a mining
Mm-hmm.
town. And I remember making jokes, teasing you and saying, "Oh, you are city kids." And
Mm-hmm.
I'm a, I'm a very rural person. I
Yeah.
could tell you, I'm an
Yeah.
African villager and
Yeah.
I go with the African time. And you
Mm-hmm.
seemed a little impatient with African time. Even in the book, one of
Yes.
the things you say is the challenges, and we'll get to that in a minute. The challenges of organizing Africans here in the
Mm-hmm.
USA, they come with those concepts of, you know, African time.
Yeah.
You are quite impatient with African time. You are very strict, very organized. You want people to
Yeah.
arrive. And I remember you teasing you about that
Yeah.
because so we'll get to that. We'll get to that. And in fact, yeah, the challenges, if you could share, you know, maybe some of the really key challenges of getting this group now with
Mm-hmm.
your vision, with your determination as a Pan-Africanist.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So there were, many challenges. I think one of the key one was really, I was really passionate about what I saw in terms of us coming together and what we could. I always said separately, we are wonderful, awesome women. Together, we we don't really stand a chance because we are not united, right?
yeah,
So how do we bring all of that greatness
yeah,
and make it work for our community? Okay,
yeah,
so in the beginning, when I had this idea and I was really clear what I wanted to do, I started outreaching to people. It was easy to get my good friends, the people who already knew me. But as I try to expand the network and being very intentional about reaching out to influencers in the different communities, whenever I approach women, the first thing they'll ask me is, what country are you from?
yeah,
You know, and they'll ask me things like, uh, what do you do for work?
yeah,
What's your education? Um, why do you want to do this?
yeah,
There was a lot of skepticism around who I was, what my motive was, even
yeah,
after
yeah,
I explain it.
Yeah.
And I'm also a person of the written word. So
Yeah.
I created lots of brochures and
Yeah.
handouts and stuff. And even after all of that,
Yeah.
this African idea of, if I don't know someone who knows you,
Yeah.
then I'm not comfortable
Uh-huh.
with what you're bringing to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I switched it up a little bit. I started really asking people who had some buying to actually reach out and ask their friends,
Yeah.
because I was not the right person to
Yeah.
make that ask. So
Yeah.
I was asking other women to ask their friends. So
Yeah.
that was kind of the strategy that
Yeah. Yeah.
I went with. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was a huge challenge.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things I see in your book, um, I mean, you state it and restate it. Um, you are a very optimistic person. You make it very clear. You look on the bright
the
side of
bright
things.
side. Yeah.
Those are your
Hmm.
words.
Yeah.
In the midst of difficulties, you keep hope alive.
Yeah.
You keep a very optimistic view. And
Hmm.
yeah. And you say also somewhere that you give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
Yeah. Through
Hmm.
all the mess, you never lose sight of that. That
Hmm.
it could be, something, if people do something the wrong way, you try to see why they might be doing that thing in that way.
Yeah.
There could be some issue. There's a whole chapter where you outline these types of things. You
Yeah.
are very generous, in other words. You are very generous. Yeah. And so, in terms of the content, um, one thing that interested me, okay, we are Africans. You are an African from Liberia, I'm an African from Tanzania, and you are with these African women
Hmm.
here.
Hmm.
You say somewhere that Black women in the USA face challenges. And you go on to say African women have their own unique challenges, perhaps.
Hmm.
You know, so I liked that, or I'm curious about that distinction. And I do make that distinction too between
Hmm.
African Americans and Africans.
Hmm.
And there's a page in your book where you do say that, I think it's on page, is it 33, somewhere there, that Black women have issues,
Yeah.
African women have their own particular issues. Can you
Hmm.
say something about that a little bit? Because there are too many people in this country, and I'm talking about Americans, who
Hmm.
think because we are all Black, then we have similar issues.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it really has to do with I like to look at people as people, right? Just as human beings. We each have backgrounds and experiences that make our lives, interesting, challenging. So if you look at African American women here in the United States, I mean, one of the biggest challenge is the racial
Uh-huh.
issue, right? And then they also come from a background of you know slavery, the history of this country. And so they have those things that affect their lives, from that history, the
Yeah,
traumas and all of that.
yeah,
Now African women coming abroad, we have different challenges. So the first one is, when we come here, we have these opportunities. I mean, the biggest thing in Africa is, for you to have opportunities, you have to be educated, right?
yeah,
So you come abroad and there's freedom in that sense to be educated. So we become educated women. But at the same time, we live in a country where we have more freedoms than the women from where we came, right? From from
uh-huh.
from the countries we're from. So we have to learn to navigate those freedoms. And
Uh-huh.
then education.
Uh-huh.
And in that process, we also have families, and our families, um, we have husbands usually who are African men, and they have expectations in terms of what the wives need to be and
Uh-huh.
what kind of role she needs to play in the home or outside of the home.
Uh-huh.
So we have those challenges navigating that.
Yeah.
Um, we also have just the challenges of knowing, what we want to do or how to navigate the professional world
Yeah.
here in
Yeah.
this country as well.
Yeah.
We have finances that we
Yeah.
never had, our mothers never
Yeah.
had.
Yeah.
So this is new for us as well. How
Yeah.
do we use those finances? We have to raise children
Yeah. Yeah.
who
Yeah.
are we want to raise them to have some culture, but at the same time, this is the country. Those are challenges that we
Yeah.
face,
Yeah.
that's different from African American women. So
Yeah.
so a lot of those kinds of things, we I found that we didn't talk much about them, you
Uh-huh.
know and so when we got together and when we created this network, those were some of the things that we were able to
Uh-huh.
openly talk about, because we all
Yeah.
we came from the same background, and we were
Yeah.
all struggling with the same things.
Yeah.
Um so those were some of the
Yeah.
issues
Yeah.
that we faced.
Yeah. 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 I'm glad you addressing this because, to quote directly from the book, I found now where you said it. You say, these are your words. While Black women in America face similar challenges,
Mm-hmm.
African women's experiences are different from
Mm-hmm.
those of African American women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are the words. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned this because in my own writings,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm glad you are one of my readers. I remember you read my Africans and Americans book, and
Mm-hmm.
you were so generous with your comments. You know, you shared your reactions, and
Mm-hmm.
I was so encouraged by that. But you could see in that book, I also say something similar
Mm-hmm.
about Africans being different culturally to
Yeah.
some degree from African
Yeah.
Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've continued to say this in public spaces where I go and give talks, in more writings.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe people like you and I who think
Mm-hmm.
about these things
Mm-hmm.
need to network some more and then formulate our views and really teach people who
Yes.
think that we are just,
The same.
same people because we share the same color.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so back to the question now of the book itself.
Mm-hmm.
The experience of writing, how was it for you? Would you would you recommend other people be writers, or is it just too tough?
Writing, I love writing. As a child, I loved reading. I read a lot as a young person.
Mm-hmm.
I love writing. I always wanted to write. Um, but I didn't know what I would write about or if I would even ever write.
Mm-hmm.
But when this opportunity came at my African Women Connect,
Yeah.
I felt like it was something. It was a little bigger than me. It was just not me wanting to write. It was me wanting to document
Yeah.
something that was really special,
Yeah.
and instrumental in many women's lives,
Yeah.
including myself. I mean, me of all, at a greater degree.
Yeah.
And so it forced me to write. And so, um, I mean, I just started. I started, you know, and just kept writing.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah.
you have to, I think, to write, you have to be clear in terms of what it is you're trying to to convey what
Uh,
you want to write about.
yeah.
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 But just little by little, it's
Yeah.
not like
Yeah.
sitting and trying to write the whole book. It's just,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I was writing this book for many, many months. um I remember I would take my daughter to dance class and I would be outside the door. I would be writing, something would come
Uh-huh.
to me.
Uh-huh.
I was writing in a lot of different places,
Yeah. Yeah.
including home.
Yeah. Yeah. So it took you many months, you
Yes.
know. Yeah. It takes me a long time to write too. Maybe
Yeah.
it
Hmm.
takes me years actually. It takes me years.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and to the audience, again, this is the book we are talking about. African Women Connect.
Yep.
How I
Oh,
started and grew a networking group of African immigrant women for friendship, business, and community. And the book is available online. I know
mhm.
it's on Amazon.
Yes.
So
Anywhere
yeah,
books are sold,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
especially online. Yeah.
yeah.
And I want to like quickly talk about that subtitle for
Yeah,
friendship, business and community. So one
yeah.
of the things that I found was that many of the women brought, they had like small businesses on the side, right? They had
Uh-huh,
side businesses. Many of them imported maybe African food to,
uh-huh,
sell to other women, or African
yeah,
clothing,
uh-huh,
those kinds of things. And some of them were just small business owners.
uh-huh,
And
uh-huh.
so what this network did was it helped them to expand their customers in
Okay,
different communities, because before
okay.
then they only had access to the women in their own community.
Yeah,
But coming to African
uh-huh,
Women Connect, they were
uh-huh.
able to now meet
Okay.
new, women from other communities, make those connections, build those relationships, and now have
Uh-huh.
new customers.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is something.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Which is,
yeah.
key too for
Mhm,
African, men and women in our
mm.
communities who are doing
Uh-huh.
like little things to
Yeah.
raise money.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Ha.
Mhm.
What an incentive. That in itself,
Yes.
would be something to attract people to your group. Wow.
Yes. But
What
it
an
also
interesting.
it also put me in trouble because it was one of
Oh,
those things. I had a rule that
uh-huh.
you cannot sell to
Uh-huh.
people. And they couldn't, a lot of women couldn't understand, how can I be part of this group and I can't come and sell to people? I said, because we don't want to scare people away by
Uh-huh.
you pressuring them to buy stuff. So
Oh,
what we need,
Lord.
what the whole idea of us coming together and networking is for you to build relationship with this person. Once you've
Okay.
built the relationship, then they will be open to hearing about your
Oh, Lord.
business.
That is so
Yes,
funny.
yes.
Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord.
Hmm.
That is very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. So, yeah, I really, was curious about, the writing. I'm so glad you recorded this experience, you recorded this activity you did, you recorded this thing that you did while you are here. I do
Hmm.
believe in the future, when people talk about, the lives of African immigrants in the USA,
Hmm.
some student doing research at some college, someplace,
Hmm.
this will be one of the sources because
Yeah,
you documented it.
yeah.
You have documented it, and I definitely appreciate it. As a
Hmm.
scholar myself, as somebody who values,
Hmm.
traditions, documentation. I just thought I needed to have an opportunity to talk with you so we can have your story out
Yeah.
there. Again, I know it's always
Hmm.
it has been out there, but I wanted to do it in my own way. And yeah. Um, I know you wrote also another book afterwards, a Proverbs book, and I've not read that one. So
So
it
that
seems, yeah,
so
go
that
ahead.
one is mostly is a journal.
Oh, I
It's
see.
just a journal. So
Uh-huh.
I love African proverbs, and I'm a journaling person. I
Yeah.
journal. every night, mostly every night.
Uh-huh.
I do it as a reflection.
Uh-huh.
Um, really struggled journaling like every day
Uh-huh.
until I found a little small journal that had it was one sentence a day for 5 years.
Okay, 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 okay.
So I was able to complete that journal by writing a sentence a day for 5 years. And I really loved seeing the year over year what I did or what I wrote on that day.
Mm-hmm.
And that really motivated me to continue my journaling after I got done with that. And so I
Mm-hmm.
created the 3 year because I thought five was
Mm-hmm.
um too long. So the 3 year journal, but on each page I had an African proverb.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I called it a proverb a day.
Yeah.
And since then I've changed it to 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And but the great part about it, I use journaling as a reflection, as a way of growth, as a way to, you can decide how you want to journal, whether you're looking at reflecting on your life or whether you're focusing on a particular journey in your
Yeah.
path.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm passionate about. I
Yeah.
created the journal because I couldn't find one
Okay.
that I was looking for. So,
Uh-huh.
and I hope to do more work around that
Okay.
in the
Okay.
future. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thinking about or talking about hoping to do more work, you have rested for quite a while now after the Africa Women Connect thing.
Yeah.
I wonder if you are nostalgic and wanting to restart it because you are such an active person. You are a
Hmm.
person who is so keen to have things happening,
Yeah.
in the world, making things better.
Hmm.
I can imagine you are feeling, maybe um, you need to continue that kind of work. I don't know.
Yes, I've been very conflicted about that. After I sort of retired from AWC,
Hmm.
um, I still am always active in the community. I've always been active. AWC actually really helps me because now I have such a huge network.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh,
I can, I have people, who I can call on at any time. And also
uh-huh.
it really helped me grow in terms of
Yeah.
how I network and
Yeah.
how I reach out to people,
Yeah.
and just the confidence in
Yeah.
networking.
Yeah.
So
Wonderful.
that, yeah, so that has really
Yeah.
helped me a lot. And that's something I was very intentional about too, like helping the women
Yeah.
to learn to network. So we would do activities specifically to
Uh,
help them learn how to network.
uh-huh.
So one of the things I've been thinking about is, I have daughters and they
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
born
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
raised here. They were raised by me. So we have all of these daughters who were raised by these women who were part
Uh-huh.
of African Women Connect. So I'm really curious
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
how their daughters are, connecting with each other out there and
Uh-huh.
how they're seeing the world and how they've been
Uh-huh.
influenced by their mothers.
Uh-huh.
So that's something that I've been thinking about.
Okay.
Maybe it's the African Women Connect next generation. I don't know.
Uh-huh. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Incidentally, I actually know some of the women that were in your group. Yeah.
Hmm.
Minnesota is not, I mean, it's a big, big place, but in the cities, we
Hmm.
meet in the same events,
Hmm. Yeah.
book events, cultural events. So I do know
Hmm.
some of the members of that
Yeah.
group of viewers. And so,
Hmm.
yeah. Um, Again, I just want to say this. I really appreciate, the opportunity to talk with you. And I'm glad you have been very patient with me. We started talking about this many months ago.
Yeah.
I kept having, reasons for not being able to come, and you kept being very patient.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that very much. I do. And the patience you showed as leader of that group,
Mm-hmm.
you have
Yeah.
shown in, you know, trying to, go along with my request for this interview. And yeah, I'm glad it finally happened. And I know there are a lot of things to talk
Mm-hmm.
about because the book is very rich.
Yeah.
I value it very much. It's very rich. But I do want to salute you for writing this book. It
Mm-hmm.
records a very important moment in
Mm-hmm.
in the course of your life here and
Yeah.
the lives of so many women. And
Yeah.
so few us like me, who were following, what you are doing. I want
Mm-hmm.
you to know, you know, there are people who appreciate it, and I'm one of those. I don't want to brag, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm just telling the truth.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. I've met women who have been who were part of the group, as well as women who just read about it or heard about it,
Yeah.
and they continue to encourage me to start again.
Uh-huh.
And I said that's why I wrote the book, so you can pick it
Yeah.
up and do your
Yeah.
own. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but seriously, I mean that's my hope that other women could pick up this book and say this is something I want to do. Start
Uh-huh.
with your friends. That's
Uh-huh.
why it always starts. Start with
Uh-huh.
your friends, and then it
Yeah.
will just
Yeah.
blossom from there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's important. Is very important. That was, and I will tell you that African Women Connect was the very first and only, even since we stopped, we have not had another organization like
Yeah.
African Women Connect that
Yeah.
brings
Yeah.
all these women from different
Yeah.
communities together.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. I mean, I know it was challenging, but I had
Yeah.
no idea
Yeah.
that it would be
Yeah.
so difficult that
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
people will just not
Yeah.
want to do it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's very challenging.
Yeah. And that's really the reason I was telling you I want your story to be told again. It's an important story. And I kept telling you I'm so keen to have that opportunity to also participate in telling that story of what you did. You
Mhm.
told it yourself, but I wanted the world, to still hear it,
Mhm.
and it's something you have done for posterity. I believe that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much. I
yeah,
would just want to share one thing that one of the women said to me that I cherished and I always remember. She said, whenever I was at African Women Connect event,
yeah,
my whole focus was on the women around me and not thinking about where they're from or what ethnic group they're from. So the focus really when we got together was really just on each other,
uh-huh,
you know,
uh-huh,
because she said that because a lot of times what people experience is that when they're in communities
yeah,
and they go to these groups that just from people in the community, the
yeah,
focus is usually on other things outside, something someone heard, not to, gossip,
uh-huh,
other people's lives, what's going on.
yeah,
But whenever African women came together,
yeah,
because we all came from different communities, those
yeah,
communities were no longer the focus.
uh-huh,
Our community became the
uh-huh,
focus.
uh-huh,
So I just really appreciated
uh,
her,
yeah, yeah,
articulating that experience to me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know they probably we might need to meet another day and talk because the story is big. The story has many dimensions. We can't
Hmm.
even do justice to the
Yeah.
book in
Yeah.
one conversation.
Hmm.
I encourage people to just read it,
Yeah.
Yeah, here it is, African Women Connect, and it's available on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I keep my copy very, very carefully, not to lose it. You autographed it for me. There's a
Oh.
very, oh yeah. it was on November 18, 2017.
Yeah.
A long, very heartwarming, you know,
Oh,
message
that's
encouraging
nice.
me to do what I'm doing. So, yeah, I value this book very much.
And
So,
you encourage, you are an inspiration.
uh,
That book, African and African Americans,
yeah.
read that book so long
hmm
ago. It's on my shelf.
hmm
Um, yeah, so you
Yeah.
have always been an
Yeah.
inspiration and motivated people like
Yeah.
me and many in the community as well,
Yeah.
Professor Billy. So
Yeah.
continue doing what you're doing. I'm
Yeah.
just I continue to try and like let me see what the professor's doing. Maybe I
Yeah.
can
Yeah. I
follow in
know you.
footsteps.
I see you. I see you follow me on Instagram. Yeah.
Yes,
Follow me. You're one of my faithful followers. I really respect you for that. And I thank you for that. Yeah,
it's a pleasure.
I really do. I really do. Yeah. So again, I'm so grateful you were able to make time to talk with me today. You are a mother, you are the boss of the house. You have so many things to take care of. And so to give this time to me is something I would not, take for granted. I really appreciate it. And again, thank you very much for coming to the show. Um, and I wish to thank our audience, and I hope they can comment. There's a comment section, below this video on my YouTube channel. Yeah, and I think featuring you here will invite some other people who didn't even know about my channel because your network is different from mine to some
Mhm,
degree.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish you a very, very nice day. And it's a weekend. I wish you a very restful weekend.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it,
Uh,
and it's been a pleasure to know you and to be on this show and to continue to follow your work.
yeah, thank
Um,
you.
Such an inspiration.
Yeah, thank you very much again.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. You're
Okay,
welcome.
bye.
Bye bye.